earth titles a book, 5 Reasons to Tell Your Boss to Go Fuck Themselves. Well, my name's Michelle McQuaid, and I believe that playfulness is essential for our growth. I also believe that we each have the ability to change our situations no matter what we're facing, and for many of us, that's a bad boss. In fact, 3 out of every 4 people report that their boss is the most stressful part of their job. And I was one of those 3 who happened to tell her boss to go fuck himself. Let me explain. I was a senior leader in a large global firm working for a big important boss who was renowned for shouting so loudly they had to move his office to the far end of the building where fewer people would hear him. Now, at the time we were working on a pretty stressful project, and during a tense confrontation with a colleague, I committed the cardinal sin of bursting into tears and greatly embarrassing my boss. Now, this wasn't like me at all, so I was relieved a week later to find out that I was pregnant, and this was just the early swirl of hormones changing. Unfortunately, that wasn't good enough for my boss, who decided it was time to toughen me up. For 6 miserable months, he embarked on a relentless campaign to build my resilience. It was demeaning, it was disrespectful, and it undermined my ability to do my job. So during my performance review, when he asked me how it was all going, I looked him in the eye and in the gentlest of tones said, "Well, with the greatest respect, when it comes to my resilience, you can go fuck yourself." There was deathly silence. I dared not blink or look away, and then very, very slowly the corners of his mouth started to turn up. He let out a bellow, a laugh, not a yell, and said, "Fair enough, I guess. Fair enough." And just like that we moved on, and my resilience was never spoken of again. Now, what surprised me most was that when I shared this story with friends, tales of bad bosses came pouring out. Apparently they were everywhere, and none of us really knew what to do about it. So for light relief, as we shared our stories of woe, we started responding with the rallying cry, tell them to go fuck themselves. And the very idea would make us laugh every time. In fact, studies show that provided we don't do it too frequently, swearing can be a great source of pain relief. And when it's mixed with a bit of humour, it can actually jolt our brains into more expansive, tolerant and creative thinking spaces that make us much better problem solvers when it comes to dealing with our bad bosses. So why should you buy this book? Well, I've spent the last 10 years in large organisations trying to change behaviours because I'm passionate about finding ways to bring out the best in people, particularly at work. So I decided to use all that I'd learnt in my studies of positive psychology with the field's founder Martin Seligman to write this book and empower employees just like you to be able to overcome the terrors of their bad bosses. Now, whether you choose to stay in your role or move on and find a much nicer boss, you'll learn a range of simple, proven skills that can make your work much more rewarding. I've collected case studies from people in all sorts of roles working for all sorts of bad bosses to help you have the courage and the confidence to create win-win outcomes for yourself, your boss, and your organisation, because this should be social Aikido at its very best. So if you or anyone you love is suffering at the hands of a bad boss, then get the very best revenge of all by buying this book. You'll find it on Amazon and in all good bookstores from October 2012. Thank you so much for listening. You absolutely rock.